Hail, hail, the Celts are here, but kind of, although I am here, I'm not. Big apologies to everyone. Normally I'm live if you're catching this when we've released it, 5 o'clock every Friday for a bit of a weekly catch up. I think we've kind of caught up with the week often enough, number one. But number two, over the years, Mrs. Quinn has become more and more aware of the football fixture list, the football calendar, and she knows when it's international break, and she's pulled rank on me. So Friday night we're out the house tonight, as it were. So wish me luck for that one, and I hope you enjoyed this one. This was a video we're going to be dropping next week as we come out of the international break, as we start to get ready for the football coming back. The report card for this stage of the season so far, the games that have been and gone, what we've seen on the pitch, what's been kind of good, or if there is any of that, I don't know, what's worked, and everything else, the state of the squad, the style of play, and what the integration of the transfers might look like when we come out of this international break. At any point in the video, if you laugh, you learn, you like something or whatever, please do like and subscribe to the channel for more content like this, and get into the comment section. And on this one, guys, let's try and keep it to the football, let's try and keep it to on the pitch this season so far, what we seeing, what we thinking, what we feeling. Let me know down in the comment section down below. Of course, feel free to write anything you want, but if you want to keep it into the chat, let's keep it in that little bubble. And yeah, let's just get stuck straight into it, because I think as Celtic fans, we all know and recognise and feel that there's been a lot more downs and ups in recent times, mainly with developments and, off the pitch stuff, really, isn't it? But on the pitch, it's not been smooth sailing either. There has been some ups, there's been some nice goals, some new signings that have hit the ground running, but there's been a lot of frustration and a lot of question marks. We've only conceded one goal this season so far, and that was scored by Keelan Adams. So fist bump to you, Keelan. Congratulations on that little accolade. St Mirren, Aberdeen, Livingston, a derby match, and 2 Champions League playoffs. We have not conceded a goal at all from open play, set pieces, anything, which is something that at the beginning of the year, I was at Flag Day for the very first game of the season, where we were at home, of course, being Flag Day, to St Mirren. And I was feeling after this game, and really analysing the team in the match or two thereafter, this is probably the best defence we've had at our disposal, and I think there's real proof in the pudding here. The St Mirren game, St Mirren huffed and puffed probably a little bit more than, certainly a good bit more than Rangers, but certainly more than Livingston. And Falkirk were quite spicy, weren't they? But they didn't, really threaten too much. We'll get to them in due course. But St Mirren had some good threat, an opposition that we know is always a handful, always really busy. And this is a game where I was really impressed with Alistair Johnson playing in like a defensive midfield position quite often. Negren had a decent debut for me, but didn't convince everyone. But with Negren and Tierney coming in, it did feel that the team got a bit better. Now, we were missing Nicholas Kuhn for obviously Yang and then later Forrest in the match, but I felt Negren gave us something in the midfield that we hadn't had last season since the departure of Matt O'Reilly. And with Tierney over there, you could just feel the difference in the opposition not trying to target down that left-hand side. So actually from the first game, I felt, like we're in pretty good nick here. Daizen Maeda sadly didn't score in this game for his own sake, and this was really the beginning of the end for him. 3 big chances missed. Statistical sitters, as we call them here on the channel, and he was unlucky with 1 or 2 of them. Calling them a sitter is maybe a little bit extreme, but all the same, we won this game only 1-0 thanks to a goal off the bench from Luke McEwen, and it was a very well taken goal for the most part. Daizen Maeda but picked up his old tricks a little bit in this game, and what I mean by his old tricks, yes, he caught fire, yes, he was the main man for portions this year, but he's also a guy that has, missed the chances when they've came to him previously, and he's not had a smooth sailing Celtic career. I think that's easily forgotten at this stage. He is a hero. We love Daizen on this channel, of course, as well, but maybe a little bit of writing on the wall there for what is yet to unfold for Daizen Maeda, as many of you will be aware today. I think head not in the game is the expression, isn't it? We then went away to Pittodrie, which we all talk about as being like a tough game and a tough fixture and whatever, but we have a really good fixture, a really good track record up there, a really good head-to-head against Aberdeen, and this is a game that, Ayushi looked really good in the first 20 minutes. I think they all looked really good in the first 20 minutes, and then the rest of that just became typical hatchet, Jimmy Tilleen Aberdeen, and the game was, we've won 2-0, we came out of this the better team. Alistair Johnson, I think, also played a fantastic game, but Hitate's goal was, I don't want to call it a wonder goal, but it was like a bit of magic. It was an X-factor moment, a shot from the outside of the box, and Ben Negren's goal himself, again, it's inside the box, so it's really hard to say it was like a piece of magic or whatever, but real cutting edge, real killer instinct, real finisher instinct. And this game was decided by a very fine margin with both those goals for me. The defence again looked really solid, didn't really look under threat for the most part, and the bench, we see kind of the usual suspects again, don't we? Now sadly, the Scottish League Cup doesn't quite get the same statistical coverage from all the vendors and all the guys that follow football as the primary leagues do, but we have the Falkirk game here where the team was much rotated, and I think we expected this coming into it. Now at the time, I can see the logic in playing Tierney, McGregor and Johnson still in this team to give it a little bit of, and Daizen Maeda as well. I think we're limited with options with Daizen, but with those guys there was rotation options for them and we didn't take them, and I kind of get it for the sense of like keeping a bit of first team presence in the team and holding the level for everyone else to be playing with. But Dane Murray and Trusty played a lot together in pre-season. McCowan and Engels played a lot together last year and in pre-season. Kenny played a lot in pre-season. A lot of these guys were ready to go. You know, they hadn't played the first 2 games of the season but had featured very heavily in pre-season, and as time goes on we can see the pressure Tierney's been on, we can see the decline in McGregor, and obviously Alistair Johnson, I know he scored the goal in this game, a nice 4-1 victory, the only goal we conceded, Keelan Adams of course, as we mentioned earlier. But for McGregor and Johnson not to get subbed off in this one, maybe I'm nitpicking a little bit, but with the amount of squad management and minute management we have to do with Carter Vickers clearly and Kieran Tierney, it feels like, you know, that's maybe came it's came up the priority list a lot higher than generally looking after the entire squad with the big trip to Kazakhstan and everything around the corner. I personally expected a lot more in this game from Engels and McCowan, although they both did look okay, but you expect them to, and Engels was desperate to score in this game, was always ending up in the box, was begging for tap-ins and cutbacks, and was unlucky. He has had some stuff ruled offside this year, but you felt that he was coming into this game like, this is my time, I'm going to take this match and put my name on it, and didn't quite fall for him. Murray was a big hero of the game obviously, and otherwise it's rather forgettable, isn't it? We then go from that game to hosting Kairat Almaty in a must-win Champions League qualifier where we had rotated the squad quite well. The Falkirk game was on like the Friday, and I think this was the Tuesday, the Wednesday, something like that, so we had ample time to get ready for it. All the previous games had been weekends only, so this was the first time we were doubling up the fixture calendar with a midweek weekend situation. We had a great first choice 11, I think, for the most part, on paper coming into the game, although none of the strikers had really convinced to this point. Daizen Maeda comes off at half time, having really done the square root of nothing, but he was dropping into pockets a little bit more. You could tell he was trying, but again, I think the feedback and the analysis we had in the post-match was, it did feel at this stage very much so, with the progression we'd seen game on game, St Mirren aside, Daizen Maeda was really relearning how to be a striker in a lot of ways. It was quite peculiar, wasn't it? But we had no chance creation in this one. So much fell on the shoulders of Negren, but with Alistair Johnson going off injured so early in the game, it had a kind of knock-on effect to how efficient and how effective we were down the right-hand side of the pitch. And really, Tierney, how often did he bomb on and really ask questions of them? Not as much as we would have liked. The defence was solid, obviously. And Daizen here somehow doesn't get a big chance missed. I think because of that one-on-one at the end, he didn't actually pull the trigger. He didn't actually take the shot, which is again one of these failings in statistics where we all know he had the chance to win the game in his hands, but because he never actually shot, it doesn't get recorded as a missed opportunity for him in that regard. But these guys gave as good as they got, and it was a tense match, and really, all things being equal and on different days and maybe slightly better circumstances, we really should be winning this game at least 1-0. We get the same sort of players off the bench. Obviously Ralston this time comes on for AJ because of the injury. The trusty for Scales move that we've seen so much in this season. Engels, Yang, Yamada, all coming off the bench to no real impact or effect, sadly. We then move into the Livingston game. Now, Rogers pre-match to Falkirk said that part of the Falkirk selection was with Livingston in mind, so we were expecting some squad management, some minute management, and some rotation within the squad. Now, Austin Trusty, before this game was announced, has been injured, which means Scales come into play against Dane Murray, alongside Dane Murray, I beg your pardon. Ralston has to come in, of course, for Alistair Johnson, but we also then get the return of Inamura for Kieran Tierney ahead of the big trip away to Kazakhstan, and it was good to see him. He played well. I think everyone quite liked him, and you know, with the move that we've seen with Scales playing at left back, did this guy do much worse? It is Livingston, right? But against Falkirk, who he could have played against the week before, and really coming off the bench at the sharp end of some of these, maybe Aberdeen away maybe wouldn't be for Inamura, but maybe St Mirren at home, especially with how decent he'd been in pre-season, you think he might have played that, which is, you know, there's some politics going on, isn't there? But we get Bernardo getting his first appearance of the season, and he rests McGregor in this case. So we get Tierney and McGregor rested and benched, and it's all eyes, all effort. There's no excuses for the Kairat game. And at home to Livingston, again, like, we huffed and we puffed and we were all over them. We won 3-0 on paper, but I think we all know that this game didn't really have that proper zest to it. We get a goal and an assist off the bench from Daizen. And, you know, again, it's quality that's making the difference here. There's no style of play. We were all over them. We were cutting them open at will. And yeah, we did have chances in this game, and it was one of the best game we've probably had so far this season, you would maybe say, but it didn't look convincing. It didn't feel that fluid. I thought Maeda looked quite nippy when he was on without really coming to much. We got another good shift out of Engels. I don't think he's been stepping up, but he's been really pushing, really trying. And him and McKeown really both disappointed me in this game. I thought McKeown was the worst of the kind of second string guys that came in, which I found disappointing. And again, I think we were all disappointed Maeda never got the goal. But when Kenny comes off the bench and scores, you feel that there's maybe a change in dynamic that comes from that. But again, Livingston were a lot better, I think, than we eventually will come to Rangers, obviously. But they were a lot better than Aberdeen at trying to get at. As a big guy, Silla, Bokila, and I think they had somebody off the bench that was quite handy as well, Yengi maybe, where, you know, they tried to rattle themselves up the pitch once or twice, and it wasn't, it wasn't smooth sailing in that way. You know, Dane Murray had to make that last man tackle. It was his own error, but, you know, Livingston could have got in and scored, but again, the defence was really good, wasn't it? And the thing that Bernardo adds into the picture here is because it's not McGregor. McGregor's got that centre of gravity that the whole team needs to pass to him. We just, you know, we maybe did move the ball forward a little bit quicker, which kind of was part of the highlight of when you see McKeown breaking it down, or when you see Yang not completing the move, or you see Maeda not quite getting the shot away, not quite getting on the end of the ball down the channel. So there was some positives in this. We then go away to Kairat. Now, we don't need to relive this because I'm sure it'll give you all PTSD, right? But just looking at it from bird's eye view, we've managed to rest Tierney and McGregor. Obviously, we're having to play Ralston. That's just, there's nothing really we can really do about that in terms of, we would rather Johnson. No harm to Ralston. I don't think he let us down here at all. But it is what it is. Maeda goes through the middle. We start Yang and Forrest. Yang on the left. And with Adam Idah on the bench, Johnny Kenny, Shinya Maeda, and Callum Osmond, it's just an absolute bag of frogs, isn't it, right now? With no, like, what is happening in any of the forward positions right now? Negren played right wing, goes back to midfield, and I think the best place for Negren is in midfield. I think you want a front three playing in front of him, and that's where we've seen his best football. But he is, like, we've spoke before about Scales having to, you know, firefight, playing with so many different centre-back partnerships, and, you know, really having backs against the wall, moments, dire straits, and really pulling through. And Negren, in an attacking sense, is kind of in there as well, where he really wants to lead the team forward. He wants to be a hero. He wants to get on the ball and do stuff, but he's not quite got that support from right back. He's maybe not got a great kind of partner on that side in Forrest in terms of peak performance. And Daizen, I know everyone's crying for him to go through the middle, and I agree, you probably do get more out of him up front, but he's not a guy that up front is going to be making stuff. This is a guy that up front, when Jota and Kuhn were playing, was brilliant. With Forrest and Yang, it's not the same, is it? You know, so I would have probably rather prefer keep Daizen on the left in this one, and try, you know, Kenny scored off the bench, why not start him? If Idah's in the squad, you get 50 minutes, obviously including extra time and whatever, but I don't know, I just thought this was a bit desperate and a bit, you know, gloves off from Brendan's what I called it at the time. It's just, sack it. This is who I put my faith in. It's you, Daizen. You're going to lead the line and you're going to go for it. He gets a last man tackle in this game, or pardon me, a clearance off the line. So if you're wondering why he scored so well, he did a wee bit of defensive work for us, if nothing else. Again, misses another one-on-one in this one. It does get recorded as a big chance missed. It could have again won the game, won the tie, won the fixture, and seen us progressing, but sadly it wasn't to come. And now at point of recording, we've had comments from Daizen on his arrival to the Japan squad that he's been signed off. He's been ready to go the whole window essentially, and you can tell, you can see it. Everyone's been saying he's going to be off, and it's all confirmed now. I think we're expecting his departure come January. Hopefully now that the window's closed, we can get a bit more of Daizen buy-in, because we really need him, you know. But I think those chances is the cost, is the penalty of keeping a guy like that when his head is gone. You know, he's moved on, he's about to move somewhere else. We've just done something very similar to Yang, obviously, and it just further compounds the ineptitude of the business and the board and whoever else. Blah, blah, blah. I'm saying names because you don't know who it is. They don't tell us anything. The last game we get to before the international break is, again, last chance saloon. We spend the money, we bring in Balikwisha, we throw him in the deep end for a derby debut, we put Negren into the front line, and you know what? This is probably the strongest, this is the best 11 players that we have at the squad that were fit and available for this game. Cannot fault the team selection in theory, I don't think. Maybe you could have brought Balikwisha off the bench and started somebody like Maeda or Kenny. I can get the arguments for that, but I don't think they hold up too strongly. Maybe you want Negren in midfield, but I think Engels has done enough to get into this game, and we just needed every bit of quality we could in this game. And I don't mind putting Negren onto the right-hand side here, but with not having someone... Like, Ralston never got pushed forward often enough to support that right-hand side. Engels doesn't really... Like, Engels is wide, but wants to come inside, so... And Balikwisha, same as Tierney, had no support. Balikwisha was an island in the left wing position right up here with, you know, in this kind of zone here where the mouse is just now. Again, very defensively solid performance, but chance creation was at a premium. And although, you know, Falkirk and Livingston are different, you know, I would call them outliers at this point. St Mirren, Aberdeen, those playoff games, we have really struggled to make clear-cut chances and just hit the back of the net with some confidence and some regularity. The chopping and the changing of how the defences worked with like the left-back situation, and obviously the way Ralston and Johnson has developed, it's really clipped the wings of the team, because the midfield, really without those players coming from behind them, are lacking options and are lacking ideas a lot of the time. Never mind all the problems we've had, of course, at striker and on the wings, which go without saying. But I think the injury to Alistair Johnson is massive. He was my favourite player of the year so far, and I know we've only had a couple of games, but I think every match he was the one player that you could look at. I'd maybe even put Scales alongside that, and everyone could agree he's better than last year. He has really turned up. He has got the bit between the teeth, and Johnson's been a big miss. Ralston's fine. He's not letting us down, but he doesn't give us what AJ gives us, you know, and it's hard to ask for a second string player to be that. So I'm happy with what Ralston's done, don't get me wrong there, but with that, and with Tierney being limited to 70 minutes and maybe like 3 ventures up the pitch a game, don't really have a full arsenal at your disposal here, do you? Now, I told you at the beginning of the year, I think the date, the timestamp on it is like the 27th of May, the day that Hearts appointed Derek McInnes. Before they signed anyone, I just knew, I could feel it. Hearts are my shout for second. Now, that might actually be something that puts us under a bit of bother. You know, if we're talking about the season report card to this point, yes, we've not conceded the goal. We've not scored as many as Hearts, and we're level on points with them at this stage in the season. And the way the window has went, we have only got weaker. I don't think there's really much of an argument against that. And Hearts, after they smelt the bit of blood in the water with Rangers getting humped off of Bruges and us failing against Kairat, they went out and broke their transfer record. They brought in a very reputable German goalkeeper that I'm familiar with, as well as 1 or 2 other players to really like just try and push the envelope this year. So we might have a very interesting domestic season. And I think, sadly, when we come to this chapter, this kind of checkpoint in the year, we should be thinking about, okay, cool, well, we're still thinking about the treble, and we're in the Champions League, or we're in the Europa League, and this is the way it's going. But the way I'm feeling, and I don't know about you, but early season report card is... forget everything. You have to win the league this year. If we don't win the league, it is an it always would be, obviously, but more so a further compounding of a catastrophe, because like we've already alluded to, it feels like Maeda's going to be out in January. Maybe Hatate isn't too far behind, which means there's going to be an inordinate amount of business needing done in the January window to even maintain the level we're at right now, and it is decreasing. I don't care about cups, I don't care about doubles, I don't care about trebles. The Europa League, I did say on the Kairat breakdown, and we'll do a full Europa League breakdown, and I'll maybe revise my opinion on this, but from an arm's length before I get into the Europa League, into the weeds with it, I really don't care about it, man. Honestly, like, write it off right now is maybe the way to think about it. But we should get through to the playoffs and get 10 games out of it, which for the money that will generate TV revenue and whatever, maybe increase some transfer fees if somebody can have a really good group stage. You know, Celtic fans, we always love Europe, don't we? It's hard to keep us away from it, but we kind of need to. And I don't want Europa League progress undermining this, because we need to get Champions League next year. And unless we win the Europa League, which, you know, what a thought that would be. Imagine this team won the... Imagine... Oh, it'd be funny more than anything, wouldn't it? We've got it all to do. We have got it all to do domestically, because Hearts are... I've been saying it for too long. They're mash out for second. They're looking good for second. And if we slip up, especially in the head-to-heads against them, nothing is a write-off at this point. Heaven forbid. And if we're to finish off the video in true report card fashion, I think we would have to give this first section of the season, on the pitch, it's like your driving test, where if you get, like, you're allowed so many minors, but if you get a major, you're done. The Champions League, like, elimination is a major, so it's an automatic fail. But in terms of, like, minors, I don't think there's that many of them. I think if we didn't have any of those major faults or breakdowns or whatever, the amount of minors we've got would probably just be about par, where it's like, okay, we're not conceding any goals, we got to the Champions League, nobody's beat us, We don't look great right now, but we have signed some guys, and yeah, we might be weaker, but we're in a not too bad place. But we've got that major, so it's a fail regardless. And really, with that fail, there's things that maybe wouldn't have been minors that become minors, if I'm explaining this well. So it just feels like, even with no goals conceded, even with sitting top of the league, being 6 points ahead of Rangers and still in the cup and whatever, it means absolutely nothing with how catastrophic the transfer window's been, the current state of the squad, and the impending January window now that we're all fearing already. And it's only the 5th of September at point of recording. A huge shout out to all of our supporters and subscribers on Substack. Thanks to everyone that supports the content over there. It really does mean a lot. If you watch this on YouTube, please do hit like and subscribe for more content like this as well. On screen now, some other stuff that we've made that YouTube thinks you might enjoy. Let me know your thoughts and feelings on the first chapter of the season, minors and majors and everything else in between. Hail, hail, have a good weekend, and on the hoops.